Tom Power, welcome.
Hi, how are you?
I'm so good. Last week, we had the interview with Zack Snyder, and it was a crazy mess because there's hundreds of fans trying to say hi. And so this week, we just shut it down. We just brought it back to the bare minimum, where it's just there's one school in Saskatoon. The kids are there.
Hi, kids. How are you? Love Saskatoon. It is the St. John's, Newfoundland of the prairies. And I'm from St. John's, Newfoundland. It is the place, there are like 3 places in Canada that I feel the most at home. And I'm not even going to include where I live. So I live in Toronto. I'm not even going to include that. I feel most at home in St. John's, where I'm from, in Iqaluit, in Nunavut, and in Saskatoon. So hi, Saskatoon. I love you guys.
And without further ado, I will introduce my students who prepared a video. It's a little bit long, about 4 minutes, 5 minutes.
Good afternoon. Hello, young citizens. We are young people about the same age as Judy Bloom's character, and can you hear me, God? It's me, Margaret. Like her, we are discovering the world and ourselves. We realize the world is facing unprecedented crises and that we must grow up and be the change we want to see in the world.
Welcome to our fellow students and teachers across Canada and the planet. We know you also want to make a positive impact on the planet. Today, another very influential guest is joining us. We believe he is also a person lending his voice in the fight for social justice and environmental sustainabilities.
As we were preparing this interview, we submitted our script to the ChatGPT artificial intelligence program. ChatGPT said Tom Power would talk about the voices of those who are often overlooked or ignored in the media. It also said the greatest challenge for youth is they believe their voice doesn't matter much. But in fact, it matters very much.
Tom Power, born May 1st, 1987, is a Canadian musician and broadcaster, best known as the host of Q on CBC Radio 1. Previously the host of Deep Roots and Radio 2 Morning on CBC Radio 2. On August 16th, he was named the permanent new host of Q, replacing Shad. Based in Johns, Newfoundland and Labrador, Power began hosting Deep Roots in 2008 while he was a student of folklore at Memorial University of Newfoundland. Just 21 years old at the time, he was the youngest host of national program on CBC Radio since Peter Jennings.
On the board of the Newfoundland and Labrador Folk Art Society. He has hosted numerous folk festivals, including the Hillside, Mariposa, I've been there! Okay, me too. Edmonton and Winnipeg festivals. Power is a member of the award-winning folk band, the Dardanelles. I love the Dardanelles! Yeah, me too. We both like. FYI. His sister Erin Power, I have a sister too! Okay. Is also a musician who records and performs the children's musical group, the Swinging Bells. Whoa! In 2020, during the COVID-19 pandemic in Canada, Power hosted the CBC television talk show, What Are You At with Tom Power, which featured him interviewing both celebrities and ordinary Canadians remotely from his home studio.
Tom Power helped Canada get through COVID with the soothing sound of his voice and the fire burning in his heart. We are massive fans of Tom Power because of his incredible empathy and skills at making his guests feel at ease. The list of extraordinary people who have sat with him is extremely impressive. His conversation skills are unparalleled. He is so passionate and cares deeply about Canadian and world culture in all forms. He loves Canada with all of his heart, especially his home of Newfoundland. He is one of the Canadian best ambassadors in the media currently. We feel incredibly privileged to have him connect with our youth, and we look forward to him answering our questions.
So there you go, our little tribute to Tom Power. And by the way, the sock puppet was named Thumb Power, with like a thumb. They're having
awesome.
their Christmas concert right now.
He can host the show next week if he wants to. Thumb Power can, I could take a week off.
Oh my gosh.
Like that,
Yeah.
I like the CBC. I love the CBC garb, by the way. Love the hat and the shirt. Lovely stuff.
This is as much as our production budget. This is as far as we go.
Yeah.
And now we're going to have a question, which is also pre-recorded, I believe. By
Okay. So these are pre-recorded questions, and I'll answer them.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
From except for Saskatoon, they're going to be live. Yeah.
Awesome. Can't wait, Saskatoon. Get ready. Better be a good one.
And now Cloverdale Catholic School in Surrey, BC.
Okay.
My name is Peter, and I'm a grade 7 student council member from Cloverdale Catholic School. My question for you is, Mr. Power, can you tell us about important teachings you may have received from your family or other influential role models as you were growing up?
Well, that's a great question. Hi to Surrey, BC. Love Surrey, BC. Thanks for the question. Well, I'm from St. John's, and I was lucky enough to have two really great parents. My mom was a high school teacher from St. John's. She taught in a school called Gonzaga High School. And my father was a labor leader. He worked for he helped start the largest public sector union in Newfoundland. And then he ended up teaching at the College of Trades there. So, and my mother, she was an English teacher, but she also specialized in teaching kids who were on the verge of dropping out. When they were worried that the kids were going to drop out, they would be sent to my mother's class, and she would have to talk to them and try to convince them to stay in school. From the two of them, I learned, I guess I learned that all people are deserving of love, and all people are deserving of respect. And, my father, when we used to drive around, my dad used to, if there was a taxi driver, Dad would try to pull over, get out of the way. And he would always say, well, that man's working right there, or if something bad had happened on TV and someone had gotten into trouble, my mom would say, well, he's still worthy of love. And she was a religious person. She would say stuff like, well, they're all God's children, what she would say. But what I got from that would be that, these people are all, everyone's worthy of love, and everyone's all worthy of that as well. I also got a work ethic from my father. I remember driving down the road in St. John's, and my dad pointed at the Confederation building, which is the kind of the seat of power in Newfoundland. It's where the premier works in Newfoundland. And there was, I think it was around 9:30 at night, and the light was on, and my dad said, that's the premier's office. That's the premier's office right there. He said, because you can have all the talent in the world, you can have all the skill in the world, but unless you work hard, chances are, things are not going to work out the way that you necessarily want them to. So I learned about the value of good work. And then, weirdly enough, a big piece of information I got was from watching a television show called The Tonight Show briefly with this guy named Conan O'Brien. So Conan O'Brien, the story is, kids, that he had waited his entire life to get to host this show. He waited his entire life to get to host The Tonight Show. And after, I think it was about 6 months, they took it away from him, and he lost the show. And he came out on stage, and everyone wondered what he was going to say. And what he said was, what I want to say to everybody listening to this is that you may not get everything you want in life, but if you work hard and you're kind, amazing things will happen. And I was, I think, 17 when I saw that, 18 years old when I saw that. And I said, that seems to be like a pretty good way of living your life. If you work hard and you're kind to people, amazing things are going to happen. And I've tried to live my life by that. I don't know if I've always succeeded, but amazing things have. And my life has never turned out the way I thought it would, or I could never predict what's about to happen. But those things have really helped me along the way.
Thank you so much. Our second question is pre-recorded from Vancouver. We have
Saskatoon,
Natalia.
be on guard. Saskatoon, you're going to be up soon. We're going to get through the pre-recorded ones first.
The next one is Saskatoon.
Hi, my name is Natalia. My question is, how do you transition from being a musician to a show host? How do you feel about your stellar career, and what could you possibly dream of doing next?
Oh, you sound like my mother. What are you going to do after this? I was a musician since I've been 14 years old. So since I was I've been playing music since I was a little boy, since I was about 5 or 6. But really, I started playing guitar and taking it really seriously when I turned about 13 or 14. And one thing I realized is that I was as interested in performing music as I was why people made the music that they did. So for my degree, what I did in school, I didn't do journalism. I didn't do anything like that. I did this really interesting program at Memorial University of Newfoundland called Folklore. And what that means is that part of my degree was having to travel to rural communities all around Newfoundland and Labrador. Some places you could only get to by boat. Some places you could only get to by skidoo. Some places that you could not get to with a car. And I would sit down with people in those communities. They might have made quilts. They might have had something they cooked. They might have sang a song. They might have played an instrument. And I just sat down with them and I just got to know them and figured out what it is about them that made them make the music that they make. So I was always really interested in how where we're from and our cultures and the things we've gone through in our lives lead us to make the art that we make. So when the time came, I was on the road and I was doing a little bit more radio and I was having a good time on it. And this opportunity came up for a job to professionally get to sit down with some of the greatest artists of all time, to get to sit down with, like, I'm thinking with you guys listening in Saskatoon, to sit down with like Taylor Swift and Harry Styles and Ed Sheeran. I get to talk to all these people and I get to find out why they make the stuff that they make, just like I did with those people sitting at kitchen tables drinking tea in Newfoundland all those years ago. And it is so exciting for me, and it's something I've loved doing since the very beginning.
Thank you. That was Natalia, and thank you for your answer. And Alvin Buckwold School in Saskatoon. Chris.
Hiyo. So as you can see, I'm very excited about this interview. Got work all done it up. My dad worked for CBC 35 years, and you talked unions, and he was with the NABIT. He got to the secretary treasurer level, and
my dad was secretary treasurer. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's great. It was great.
So I've always wanted to do a CBC interview. I just didn't think I'd be on the interviewing team. But in preparing for this, I was listening to your band, the Dardanelles, this morning, and I have to.
Sorry.
No, I strolled into work mighty chipper this morning because I think it's impossible to listen to your East Coast upbeat music and not be tapping your feet or wanting to drum on something and everything else. So great stuff. Teachers, if you get a chance to check out The Grand Seduction about small Newfoundland town trying to charm a doctor into staying, you really ought to check it out. And it has Dardanelles music in it. So say choice. Finally, if I could pull off a Rick Mercer at this point, if you happen to be in St. John's on December 28th, for the first time in 4 years, the Dardanelles will bring in a foot-stomping, hand-clapping, heel-kicking good time to St. John's for a very special evening at the Bella Vista. At least that's what I would say if it weren't already sold out. So congratulations on that.
Thank you very much.
At any rate, Tom,
I sold out long ago, though.
Long may your big jib draw.
Oh, good.
Here we have Mackenzie with her.
Hi, Mackenzie. How are you?
Good.
Good. You doing all right?
Yeah.
Is it cold in Saskatoon today?
Yes.
Did you have to wear a winter coat?
Yes.
Did you have to wear boots?
Yes.
Did you have to change out of your boots when you got to school and put normal shoes on?
Sometimes I don't wear shoes.
Yeah, me too. I know what you mean. Anyway, what's your question?
What makes a great interview? How does it improve your interviewing skills? And what are some interviews that shook you to the core?
Oh my God, how poetic. Let me see. Let me take them one by one. I think what makes the type of interviewing I do very different than the interviewing, Mackenzie, right? Mackenzie, the type of interviewing I do is different than a lot of interviewing. So, I mean, for journalists and people who like cover the news, their job is to get facts and find out why things happen. And they do incredibly important work. Let's say if there's a fire in your community, they're going to find out what happened with the fire. They're going to find out who started the fire. They're going to find out how the reaction was. They're going to find out if anyone was hurt and if anyone was sick and, you know, and exactly what happened. And that's an incredibly, it is a insanely important. What I get to do, I'm so lucky because what I get to do is I get to try to talk more about like ideas, and I get to talk more about like why people do the things that they do. So in my opinion, what makes a good interview with me good, what makes me happy with an interview is if I feel like I'm having like an honest conversation with somebody. If I feel like someone isn't putting on, doing a character for me and they're not acting for me and I'm not doing that for them and we're just having an honest conversation with one another. And the trick to a good interview is that you are able to listen to one another. And when I say that, it means that you're not thinking about the next thing you're going to say. You're not thinking about the question you're going to ask. You're not thinking about what it means that they said what they said. You're fully listening to one another and you're just allowing yourself to react to whatever it is that they say. And that is the key to a great interview. And I remember, do you know who the singer Adele is? Do you know who Adele is?
Yeah, my mom's obsessed with her.
My mom also obsessed with Adele. So I got to sit down with Adele one time, and that was a really important one for me because I was so scared. They flew me to Los Angeles, California in a big plane, and I sat down and I was in a room full of like 50 or 60 people, and in walks in Adele, and she's sitting down in front of me. And I, like you, when you had to talk in front of your class or something like that, I was terrified. I was completely terrified. And I couldn't stop thinking, is this going well? Is this going okay? Does she like me? Oh my God, is this going all right? And I just said to myself, all I have to do is just listen to her. I have to listen to the things she's going to say to me. And all I got to do is when she's finished talking, make sure I got something to say. And that ended up being our most popular interview of all time. And it changed the way we did our show forever, because in that moment, we decided that what we wanted to do was just be present and honest with our guests and not try to get anything out of them and come in prepared, but being able to listen to them. So that definitely, and I love your turn of phrase here, Mackenzie, shook me to my core in every possible way, but in the best possible way too.
Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Take care. Stay warm and put your shoes on. Don't step on anything.
Our next question, we're going to come back
to the video.
you. Yeah, Alvin Buckhold, coming back, but first we got one more video from Cloverdale Catholic School.
Okay. This is in Surrey.
Yes.
My name is Maylene. I'm a grade 7 student council member. And my question for you today is that we know you care deeply about Indigenous issues and have met dozens of hugely inspiring Indigenous figures. 2 weeks ago, we met with AFN National Chief Roseanne Archibald. She told us about the sacredness of water and how much of an issue water will be for Indigenous communities and for all humanity for decades to come. Can you tell us about your feelings on this issue?
Well, that's an interesting question. I'll tell you this. I think that when you grow up in Canada, if you're from a certain part of the country and you have a certain experience in this country, you can grow up your entire life thinking that Canada is this incredibly peaceful, benevolent, kind, wonderful place where everybody is treated equally and everybody is treated with respect. And as you get older, you start to learn, and as the times change and we have access to information that we didn't have before, as people's voices who are historically amplified are able to be amplified, as people are speaking up about the situations that they find themselves in, and that you learn that Canada's history is far more complicated, and you learn that Canada's history has not always been kind to everybody, in particular, Black and Brown Canadians, in particular, Asian Canadians, and most importantly, actually, let me not say most importantly, but in particular, Indigenous Canadians, the first people in this country, whether they be First Nations or whether they be Inuit or whether they be Métis. Now, the important thing is that you can, when you find this out, if you've lived this life where everything is, you've been told your whole life that everything's perfect and everything's equal and everybody's free, it can be really hard to take this stuff in. You can start feeling shame, you can start feeling guilt. Some people start even feeling anger and stuff like that. And a lot of people just want to shut their ears and pretend that that's never, ever happened. I'm speaking in terms of like my experience, and the experience of me is like a white male Canadian. the thing that we've been working on for a long time in this country that we're still working on is something called truth and reconciliation. And what that means is that the truth is that we have to look at what has been happening to racialized and historically marginalized people and Indigenous people in this country. And then reconciliation means that we come to an agreement that we can start moving forward in a healthy and kind and wonderful way. I find that a lot of Canadians, they want to skip ahead to the reconciliation. They want to skip ahead to everything being okay. So my feelings on this is that you have to do the truth part first, even if it's hard, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it makes you question things you were taught since you were a very, very little kid. But if you can't, and we know this from looking at instances all over the world, if you can't do the truth part of truth and reconciliation, you can't skip ahead to the reconciliation. So when it comes to looking at things like water rights, when it comes to looking at things like policing, when it comes to looking at things like access to water on reserves, when it comes to looking at things like, youth harm in northern communities, when it comes to looking at things that are happening in all of our country, the most important thing you can do is just look at it. The most important thing you can do is just take it in and allow yourself to be a little bit uncomfortable with it. Allow yourself to hear about what's actually happening in this country, because then, only then, can we start maybe opening the world to have reconciliation. But you can't do that without the truth. So that's, I find that people want to skip ahead. And my recommendation would be, don't allow yourself to skip ahead.
That was powerful. Okay, we're going back. Chris?
And here we have Carter.
Carter, how are you?
What would you put in a time?
Carter, what is that jersey you're wearing?
Rob Gronkowski.
It's what? Oh, Rob Gronkowski? Is that a Buccaneers jersey? Oh, awesome. Did you like him better on the Patriots or the Bucks?
Patriots.
Yeah, I liked him better on the Patriots. I'm a Packers fan, but I liked him better on the Patriots. Go ahead. What's your question?
What would you put in a time capsule to be opened by children 30 years in the future?
And like a nice cheese or a bottle of wine, because it'll age really well down there. That's what I think. I think that was for the teachers. I think that what would I put in a time capsule to be discovered by children in 30 years? Wow, what a great question. My hope would be that we can maybe put like a newspaper in there so that we can see what we're dealing with today, whether it be in terms of climate, whether it be in terms of injustice, whether it be in terms of respect, whether it be in terms of how some people are poor and some people are very, very, very rich. And hopefully we'll be able to open up that in 30 years and go, wow, look at how things were and look how better things are now. That would be my hope. That would be in the time capsule. And then also, I don't know, I might put like a video game in. I might put like a CD in there, or like a phone with some music on it so you could hear it, and maybe a picture of my cats or something like that, so you guys can see what they look like. But besides that, I think that would be my answer. Excellent question. Sorry about the Buccaneers, but I'm sorry that Tom Brady's not doing as well this year, but he's going to do okay,
I'm a 49ers fan.
You're a 40, so what are you doing wearing a Buccaneers jersey for?
I don't know. And what I would put it in the time capsule, I would put something about like the FIFA World Cup, because that happened this year.
Oh, yeah, it's happening right now. I think Argentina just won, didn't they?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's pretty good. Pretty good. Yeah, I know. I mean, I like the World Cup too. My dad used to live in Qatar, by the way, where the World Cup is taking place. So it's cool to watch the World Cup and see it through my dad's eyes.
Merci beaucoup.
Oh, my pleasure.
Okay, so this is a 3-part question about your show, and it's also recorded by my students. So
We find that there are a lot of people who are shaping society and giving us hope for the planet, but who are not necessarily famous or well known by our youth.
If you have a few minutes available, and if you obtain an amazing guest whom we think Hannah would love and whom you would love, would you consider coming back to introduce and maybe host some of our future interviews so a new generation of children can get to know hugely important figures of art, culture, sport, activism, and more?
Apparently, If you have amazing upcoming guests whom you think children would benefit in meeting, would you pass along a message from us or consider allowing one of our students to come on your future interviews and ask a question on behalf of Canadian students?
I mean, yes, yes. So first off, that dog in the back, I don't know whose student that is of yours, but that dog running around in the background of the Christmas tree, star of the show so far, next to the kids from Saskatoon, but like, love the dog. You can't control them. I had an animal actor wrangler on one time who talked to me a little bit about like what's like to like look after dogs and cats in movies and like make them act. And I said, what's something you wish everybody knew about animals in movies and TV? And he said, this is so stupid, but he said, animals can't act. So whenever they don't know they're acting. So every time, and it has taken me out of everything I've ever seen, because now when I watch like Frasier or something like that, and the dog is there, I go like, dog's not acting. The dog's just hanging out and happens to be on camera. So I just love watching the dog in the background. Obviously, the answer is yes, of course. I would love to, if I have someone on that is someone you think would need to hear from the children of Canada right now and the young people of Canada right now, and something that you can ask them that would help them get some insight into what this country is like and what the future might be like for them. 100%. Absolutely. Yes to it all. Yes. Yes. If I can have the day off, even better. So come on, let's do it.
The kids will be so excited when they come back and I can play this for them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
We have Kavern. She's a teacher in Oshawa.
Hey, Kavern, how are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. And I guess you want me to ask my question now?
No, you can ask whatever. How's Oshawa today? I mean, I kind of know how it is.
Doing okay. I had a few of my students who were not happy that they were not able to ask a question and be there, but we're done at 2:30, so they were long gone.
Oh, I was wondering where everybody was.
Yeah, that's why. So I'm asking the question, but they'll get to see it later and they'll be
okay, great,
happy.
Great.
But do you have a question for our students about anything at all that you would like to ask them that we could maybe answer in class later or whatever it is? Thank you.
When you're talking to somebody, how do you know they're telling you the truth? When you're talking to someone and they tell you something, how do you know they're telling you the truth? I know it's a bit deep, but I bet they'd have some better answers than my friends would about it. I would love, do you guys want to answer that in Saskatoon? Any guesses? Let's hear it. Mackenzie, you got something?
I would look in their eyes and stare at them until they say, okay, I'm lying or something like that.
The incredible intimidation tactics there, Mackenzie. I absolutely love it. Fantastic.
In their eyes, and then somehow I would make them laugh, and then I would know that they were lying.
Yes.
Yeah. But like if you say to someone like, how are you doing today? And they say, I'm doing really well. How do you know?
Their facial expression.
Their facial expressions. Interesting. So that's what Corinne, is that a good question for you guys? Like I can come up with another one. Was that okay?
Oh, that's a great question. I think we'll have some really fun responses to that
cool.
one.
That's what I'd like to know.
Thank you.
No problem.
Tom Power, this is a very good question. In this age of disinformation, and we're trying to teach kids how to use the media. That's a big part of what we do with the social media. And we were talking about the artificial intelligence at the beginning. So anyways, thank you so much. And we will get back to you with our answers to your question.
Awesome. Thank you, Corinne.
I would like to close with a poem that I heard on CBC yesterday afternoon. I might remember the name of the show, but the poem is "What is Success?" It was shared by a person on what was being interviewed, and it was I was thinking about you, and I was thinking about young global citizens and what we're trying to achieve. And the poem is "What is Success?" by Ralph Waldo Emerson. So, what is success? To laugh often and much, to win the respect of intelligent people and the affection of children, to earn the appreciation of honest critics and endure the betrayal of false friends, to appreciate beauty, to find the best in others, to leave the world a bit better, whether by a healthy child, a garden patch, or a redeemed social condition. To know even one life is breathed easier because you have lived. This is to have succeeded. I think this applies to you, and hopefully this will apply to our children as they watch this interview. We are welcoming Tom Jackson. Do you know Tom Jackson?
Yeah, I've had Tom on the show before. He's spectacular.
Wonderful. And Hans Zimmer.
This is the only Tom's season you're doing, just all Toms. You're doing Tom Jackson, Tom Power, Tom Hanks. It's Thomas Mulcair. Like it's just all Toms all the time. I've spoken to Hans Zimmer before. These are two great interviews. You're going to have a great time.
And I just want to thank you again for your time. And Mackenzie and what's the kids from Saskatoon are just going to say, they're going to lead us off. Just go ahead, kids.
Can I say to you guys that Ralph Waldo Emerson moved out into a woods cabin in the middle of the woods and like away from everybody else. And I never thought that sounded that good to me. I kind of like being around people all the time and all that kind of stuff. But I do like everything he said in that. Though I don't know how I feel about respect from intelligent people because I think that would count me out. But I do, or at least some of my friends. But I do. It's nice to hear that poem. I haven't heard that in a really long time. What do you got for me, Mackenzie? What do you guys got for me?
Oh, just a thank you and a bye-bye.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, guys. Thank you very much. Lovely shirt, lovely hat. Thank you, everybody. Take care of yourselves.
Right.
I never heard from Nicole. Nicole, what are you doing? What do you never heard from you?
I teach at a high school in Brandon, Manitoba.
Oh, wow. I love Brandon. I've been to Brandon, Manitoba. I played in Brandon, Manitoba before.
Well,
so you're in Brandon, hey?
Yeah. And so I handle some of the media stuff with young global citizens.
Right. Well, guys, if you guys need anything from me, my email address is just my name, tom.power@cbc.ca. And drop a line if anything I can do. Please let me know.
Thank you.
All right. Take care of yourselves.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Powers. Mommy, I'm interviewing a really nice guy.
Hello. Say goodbye, everybody.